ये आन दो आते हैं हम
ऐसे काम कर दो। मेरा तो वैसे इतना मोटा है अच्छा लग रहा है। और कोई पुरानी मन का इंसान आपको मिलेगा
किसने बोला
नहीं बोलना this one which is the full one.
फंड नहीं करता ट्रक बहुत दिल से स्पीच दी रैप तो चल सकते हैं उसने रैप तो कर दी इस रूम में रैप रहा मोदी का ऐसे ऐसे
Good evening, everyone. We're really sorry for the delay. I am Palika Mankani. I'm pursuing Masters in Interior Architecture from Sushant School of Art and Architecture, and I'll be your host for the evening. I welcome you all to the Degree Show 2019. I would like to start by inviting Dean, Sushant School of Art and Architecture, Director, Sushant School of Planning and Development, Dr. Vibhuti Sachdev, for the commencement of the event. I request you, ma'am, to please come on the dais for welcoming our guests.
A very warm welcome to all of you, and thank you so much for coming and braving the traffic. I know some of you have had a really harrowing time reaching here, but that's what planners and architects have done to our city. So, Degree Show is a very important event for us. It's showcasing the best of what we have, not just that the 10 we show in thesis, dissertation, and in the planning courses, they represent the best. They represent what the new generation, the new energy is like. Last year we had the first Degree Show, and believe it or not, even though we are 25-year, 30-year-old institution, last year was the first time when we thought we must now showcase what our students do and where the next wave of development is going to take us. So that is the pulse that a Degree Show of an institution like ours offers to the world, is the new ideas of the next generation. And so I hope you will go through the panels and see and encourage the students and take with you the excitement and the dreams they have in their hearts and minds for our country. Degree Show also reminds me of Arangetram, which is a in dance performance. It is the first time when your guru decides that you're ready to perform on stage. And it is with that nervousness that our students worked, toiled in the last few months, putting together their panels. With that excitement and nervousness, they present to you their hopes and dreams. So I hope you will take these in that spirit and encourage them. Our Chancellor, sir, is going to join us later, and he will be here by 6:30, and I think we should proceed for the program. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sachdev. I would now like to invite Mr. Himanshu Sanghani, Associate Dean and Associate Professor at Sushant School of Art and Architecture. Mr. Sanghani has graduated from the Indian Education Society's College of Architecture, Mumbai. He has pursued his master's in environmental architecture from Rachna Sansad Institute of Environmental Architecture, Mumbai, and master's in environmental engineering and sustainable infrastructure from Sweden. I request Mr. Sanghani to come on the dais and introduce us to the Beyond Conflicts.
Thank you, Palika. Before I move to the introduction part, I would like to address a few lines here that the whole journey of Degree Show started 3 years ago, and Dean, I, and along with few senior faculty members, we conceived this idea of holding a Degree Show. And today we are at this stage where students from bachelor's or master's, when they want to pursue further few more higher study program, the universities abroad, they are thanking us for recommending our students. They are so proud of the students that they didn't just portray themselves so fine here in the institution, in SSA, not just here, but they are portraying themselves finely in universities abroad. So that's the stage that we have achieved in last 3 years with diligent planning. And this planning is not just from the insides on my end. I would like to thank actually all our faculty members who has diligently worked with our students to come out with ideas and projects which has taken a different shape today and which you will see soon in the exhibition as well. So a big round of applause to all my faculty members who are sitting behind, who has diligently worked so hard with all the students to come out with such great ideas with students to portray in public forum like this. I would just like to read out the introduction of Beyond Conflict. Conflict resolution has for some years now been a consistent and well-attended course across different disciplines at universities around the world. It has been released and realized that resistance is and will likely remain a driver of both conservative acts and any future change we might call hesitantly radical. This is not surprising considering the differences and contestation that is being played out in the world cities. Cities like Hong Kong, Beirut, Mumbai, Paris, London. Climate change strikes, Extinction Rebellion, protests of all types now occupy the raging minds of many of the younger generation. Sustainability, eco-awareness, global waste concerns return to the challenge, the architectural curriculum, to test and strengthen one of its core elements, design. Design, whether across urbanism, planning, and architecture, is both disciplined in aspiration, resistance, and seduction, ambition, and desire. So this is leading to the conflict, and we are now entering into the conflict phase. Can architecture use its curriculum and methodology to question existing orders and systems often too comfortable to accept? How do students navigate the problematics that they see bland memes filling the cities like Gurgaon, Bangalore, or Sochi? Do only architects see this, and how can students help set up open-ended resolutions for such conflicted urbanscapes? This year, every thesis project at SSA and SSPD, whether it's bachelor's or master's, questions conventions in their attempt to look beyond conflicts. Analysis of problematic issues and areas find and contested plausible solutions. New term imply new approaches, like sustainability is to aim for systemic change, while change is never as easy as it is stated. And what of value is a system that succumbs to the dogma and set parameters of society? Students use projects to do justice to this situation, to go under the radar in order to show their reluctant elders the future systems. The Degree Show 2019, Beyond Conflicts, addresses the existing conflicts in everything that we see around through design, thesis projects of students, and multiple exploration that challenges the normative. Density, ecology, conservation, typology, identity, production, learning, religion, and many such more items. Thank you so much for being here and supporting this particular event. And from now on, we'll focus more on the core systems and values of architecture, keeping in mind the sustainability development as well as environmental systems. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sanghani. We'll now start with the panel discussion. For the panel members, I would like to invite Ms. Purva, Academic Head, Pahal Academy, Research Practitioner in Creative Education, Practices and Human Psychology, MA in Education, Azim Premji University. Ms. Purva holds 5 years of experience in mentoring and providing guidance to the students for different career options, planning academic activities and awareness campaigns for creative education at Pahal Design. Ms. Purva has worked for 4 years with the Bihar government for designing education, initiative, and classroom for different rates in respective to their contexts. She is an active participant for the implementation of various initiatives taken by UNICEF for out-of-the-school children in India. Can we please have Ms. Purva on stage?
Very good evening, and thank you so much for having me on the board. I'll look forward to the panel discussion and share my part in it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Purva. Next, I would like to invite Dr. Maulik Shah, Business Head, BRDS Academy. Dr. Shah is a doctorate in communication design and is associated with various leading design schools as a member of the BOS. Some of his visual projects are Antakshari and Splitsvilla. Design coaching company BRDS and influences design education aspirations of more than 8,000 students every year. Sir, can we have you on stage, please?
Thank you for calling an communication designer to an architect's event. Hmm? So we'll look upon architecture in a different and a broader design perspective during the panel. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, I would like to invite Ms. Amrita Madan, Assistant Professor at SSA. Professor at SSA. Professor Madan has a DEA MPhil in Design, Theories in Architecture and Urbanism from the University of Paris, France. A CESP, Postgraduate Certificate for Specialization in Landscape Architecture, and a Diploma in Architecture from SSA, conferred with the SSAA Gold Medal for all-round performance. Her specializations are in the theory of architecture, strategies and methodologies in design and teaching of design, experiential design of exhibition space. Can we please have you on the stage, ma'am?
I told her, she didn't listen. Hi everyone, this is Amrita. Hi.
Next, I would like to invite Dr. Ajit Kalath, Associate Professor, Sushant School of Planning and Development. Dr. Kalath is a human geographer and urban and regional planner. Dr. Kalath holds a PhD in land as a critical ecological resource for sustainable cities from Queen's University, UK. He has 19 years of professional experience, which includes positions in the State and Central Pollution of Control Boards, Ministry of Environment and Forests, German International Corporation, and in the private sector. Can we have you on stage, please? The panel is going to be moderated by Dr. Prab Bedi, Associate Professor and Head of Programs. Dr. Bedi is a geographer, urban and regional planner, and geospatial technology expert, having over 22 years of experience in geospatial technologies and its applications in planning. She has over 16 years of experience in teaching planning courses at various institutes, one of which is Sushant School of Planning and Development. Her current research interests are in innovation in planning laws for making better settlements and megacities. Can we please have you on stage, ma'am? Informing all the members, we have 20 minutes, followed by a 10 minutes question answer round. So let's proceed accordingly. Thank you.
Our discussion today is future of architecture, planning, education, and practice. So the questions that I'll pose would be pertaining to how the industry is shaping up, what academia is doing, how the academies are coaching academies are contributing, and there surely is a gap which we all are aware about, and how these gaps can be filled up, and how we can provide better education, provide better professionals in the field. So my first question is to you, Dr. Kalath. I would like to ask you, how is India's planning future shaping up? And do you see a demand in the field of planning education? And my question specifically would be, with respect to the education part, is there scope in bachelor's program, undergraduate programs, and what is the scenario with respect to the postgraduate programs? And also, how is the research aspect in planning shaping up?
Thank you, Prab, for asking this question. And the quick response, obviously, is there is a great future. And my reason for optimism is, if you look at the urban sector, the change in the urban sector, since the days of JNNURM, the sector has opened widely, and there are about 11 missions which are focusing on urban sector in different ways, whether it is smartness and innovation, or it's fixing the issues related to cleanliness or basic infrastructure, or harnessing solar energy, or providing housing for masses. There are a range of missions, there are ideas are in play, investments are coming from different corners, and government has kind of firm decision that urban sector has to be reshaped and reconfigured to make the country progressive. So having said this, you need to look at the kind of changes that the societal changes. And if you ask me, more and more people are using all kind of technology to kind of improve their own lives. So there are greater and spatially disaggregated data available, which helps people in planning. So planning machinery is moving forward and more effectively. This makes the profession attractive, and once the benefit of the profession, once the benefit of the system is experienced by the society, the next generation is certainly going to capture that wave. Now, enabling these two, if you look at the recent decisions of the government to bring a special paper for Bachelor of Planning by the National Testing Agency for JEE 2020, which is an enabling move. So someone who wants to take a decision about career would be able to see this as a prospective option. The supported effort by some of the state governments to actually allow B-Plan as an entry-level qualification for assistant town planner further supports this, and also prepares a market for this profession. And beyond this, there are several trends which I think I would be happy to share a little later, because would stop here. Thank you.
We'll come back to this a little later. Professor Madan, I want to ask you that we are all aware that there has been a downtrend in the construction industry, and architecture is a part of the same. If we look at the figures, there is the GDP contribution of this particular industry, construction industry, has been about 9% the last year or so. And it has been projected that it is going to be about 13% by 2020. So do you see the similar kind of transitory phase that is being experienced in planning would be there in architecture field also, despite the downtrend?
Yeah, thanks. I think all of us are thinking about this right now. And it's really important to actually contextualize it to what's happening in the rest of the world. And not just for the profession as a profession of architects who are then producing architecture, but also for what we do for the society. So, I mean, in planning, for example, we have a very, the profession is developing. There is a relation between what's happening. Cities are coming up in a certain way. Architecture, on the other hand, there is a downtrend. The construction industry has slowed down, but it is going to pick up, because, it's the truth that we need so many cities to live in, and we have this kind of the need of architecture. But I think architecture itself has to reinvent itself, and education is a very important part of that reinvention. The fact that we can't actually be looking at architecture as a vocation anymore, and we have to look at it as an education, and that provides people who are engaging with the society in different ways. So if you look at the current trend of what's happening into the universities, so you have these free-thinking universities which are coming up all over the country. So we are sort of stuck between, are we that, or are we preparing people who can make buildings? And that distinction we need to understand for architecture means much more than the making of buildings. So there is a need, there is a definite need, and there is a definite set of skills that we bring to the table. Sure. And that skill set is, it's going to be needed as long as there is humanity.
Yeah,
absolutely. So I like to stop here.
Yeah, sure. So, Dr. Shah, my question to you is, you tutor students who further go on and join architecture or some design course. So what is your perspective on this? Do you see a downtrend in this sector, or do you see that the students are still there and they are coming in larger numbers, or there has been a decline for architecture and also for planning?
I would go a little backward. When I had my hair in place and wanted to approach the construction company, right, or somebody who used to construct, I used to go to a person called, into inverted, builder. Today, if my son wants to buy a house for him, he goes to a company which is infrastructure development or real estate development. Now, this is a transition probably which needs to be really conveyed to these young architects who have done this graduation show and those who are going to get into this. Now, the difference here is that builder, into inverted, used to call only 3 people sab, in Hindi. One was his chartered accountant, second was his lawyer, and third was his architect. Because the role at that particular time assigned to an architect was a very, very statutory role. Today, if we go beyond that statutory role, an infrastructure company and a real estate development company is involving an architect into actual design, and probably community living is the concept which is coming up. Now, this is a ray of hope which all of us should have. And with this kind of an approach from the institutions and teachers like you, I don't see a downtrend. If we talk about number of applicants vis-a-vis the number of colleges, the ratio is almost going to remain same. We might have some changes in the admission pattern or other things. And this probably, my understanding towards this is a reconsolidation phase for the right educationalist, a right institution, and the right pedagogy to be in place. There is a transition between a classroom also. When I used to learn, it was a source, the only source of information that I had was in my classroom. And that's why a teacher had a different role to play. Today, a teacher is becoming more of a mentor with all project-based learning, experimental learning, and more of mentoring coming into picture. Once this has been deployed in a right way, probably it's like any other design stream. Architecture is one of the most fundamental design required by any society everywhere. So I really don't see that, and probably for right institution, for right teachers, this is reconsolidation and let the fittest be surviving. Yeah.
And Ms. Purva, what would be your take on this whole scenario, as your experiences with respect to how the architecture schools are delivering to the requirement of the industry?
First, I'll come to the question that what is the student response towards the architecture? So if we start from very inception from the schools, so when you go to the different exam centers of NATA, JEE, ARC, you will see there are students. But what happens, why they are taking architecture as an option? Why? Because they are thinking architecture is around building, infrastructure. They are not aware that architecture is also about township planning. They're also into the domain of interior. So I feel there is a gap, what students are right now receiving at the other end, and how they're going about it. The second question which you asked about the curriculum of architecture, I'll start with the fact that architecture needs to have an interdisciplinary curriculum little bit, because yes, it is about your technology, innovation, coming up with design and also sustainability. The relation needs to be understood by young talents or young future architects, because right now what the scenario of urbanization, if we talk about, the India from 1994 contributing 26% of total population for your urban size, but it's growing day by day. There, in 2014, yes, it's 32% of total population. And 2015, 50 is expected to be 50% of urbanization. So now we can analyze that architects have a very major role to play in this scenario. So there at this period of time, I think there should be sensitization towards it, that how a sustainable design can prevail in the curriculum. Thank you.
So, Professor Madan, how do you think, or what strategic initiatives is Sushant taking with respect to bridging this kind of a gap, and how they are meeting the requirements of the new age architecture?
Yeah, so I think, so I'm from Sushant. I have been teaching here for many, many years, since 2002. I've seen it evolve. And I can actually say very clearly that we are continuously reinventing ourselves. From when I studied here, we were looking at it as we were just set up, and the alumni meet is going to happen after this. So we were just setting up, and we were just trying to see, and we were trying to follow, we were trying to see what the industry needs. Right now, we are not in that state. Where we are is really becoming the path breakers of the trendsetters for, and I keep saying this, education, not architecture, but education. And we are now competing not with fellow architecture institutes. We are competing with universities. We are competing with, say, Ashoka University, that is providing liberal arts education. Because we need to talk about sociology, philosophy, all of these other, and she was right to say that interdisciplinary is the way to go. Yeah. And at Sushant, we're trying to really inculcate that and bring that directly into our curriculum. So we've been trying to rework our curriculum. We've been talking about introducing, and also the other thing is in talking about international collaborations. We're not just talking about being here anymore. We're talking about being a part of a global scenario. So we are really looking at how to bring, the dean has really been working hard on trying to bring international collaboration, that sort of mindset, the thought process of how to, what's the future of architecture. And with that, there is, our curriculum is being re-looked at. We're really looking at preparing the minds of the students to become citizens before architects. Yeah. Of course, architects. And hence, by doing that, and by bringing up our theory and method stream, and bringing up all of those things, Sushant, I think, is way ahead, and a lot of schools are actually emulating us, which is a great thing, I feel.
Great, thank you very much. And Dr. Ajit, what do you think are the initiatives that we should further take to boost the planning education in the country? Because we everywhere read that there is so much of demand in the government sector as well as the private sector for planners. However, there are not enough planners to fill in those seats. So I believe, as you said, the government has taken up some initiatives. So is there something else or something more that the government needs to do, or maybe the private sector needs to do, or the education or other stakeholders need to do to bridge this kind of a gap?
So I think the way we are working within the Sushant family, there is greater sense of convergence, that you don't just look at a discipline as just one discipline or just one set of skill sets, rather the built environment. So planning is one part of the whole built environment professions. Architecture, design, and other disciplines have to be, so that building that family and that synergy within the Sushant system is good, which is a right way forward. Once we have done that, we actually are ready to kind of engage with a bigger system. So the Sushant schools together are in a position to kind of build the ecosystem around it. So it's not just skills that we are giving, it's not just few theoretical understanding that we are giving, but rather skills which the student is able to kind of transfer to others and kind of be an effective player in the market, in the society, and in any corridor they go, policy making or further in education, whatever. So if you ask me, my reading is that academic institutions which are futuristic, which are looking for establishing itself as intellectual destinations, certainly have to be the ecosystem builder. We can't just kind of get students come, pick up some skill, go out. We have to be playing effectively. We have to engage with the local authorities, we have to engage with the practice, we have to engage with those even who criticize us, the NGOs or the community. So the initiatives that urban design or planning does at Sushant, the living lab of Gurgaon, as well as the learning city initiative that we have been trying to develop, I think these are the ways which we can be visible much more in the immediate society and also to the wider audience within the country.
Thank you. My question is now to Dr. Shah and Ms. Purva. Do you think that the technology, as in the IT sector, plays an important role? Do the students perceive who come to you for their coaching? Are they always, like what I have seen with students is they are very tech savvy, they want to learn CAD, and is that the main driver for them to choose a particular stream or a subject? Because sometimes it is that, okay, I'm going to be learning graphics, then maybe I can go into visual communication, or I want to learn in CAD and maybe then go on and design something. So is that a main driver, or there is a larger picture that they see with respect to a particular stream and then go on? And ultimately, my question per se is that what role does the technology play in the whole setup?
In present scenario, right now the student which comes to us is out of school right now. Like they come out, either they are in 12th standard or 10th standard, or they are completed 12th standard. So at this point of time, they're very much confused that even in design, they want to do communication design or they want to do fashion design. First, they want to explore. There are certain students which are very much fixed that, okay, I have to go for it. But more percentages that they want to first explore that, okay, I have to give certain exams. Coming back to architecture, yes. For that, we, after NATA also done that PCM students are for it. They are set for it, okay, they are going for NATA and they know architecture in that perspective. But with your saying technology, yes, it plays a role in that case. If they are interested in it, they want to see that, okay, my interest is there and is being forwarded with the course as well, which I'm going to forward with it. So technology has that role and they play at this inceptions of choice as well.
I would go a step beyond this, probably. Being tech savvy is something which every class 10th or 12th student is going to be per se. But if we look at two basic skill sets which is required for any design profession, including architecture or environmental design, is one, problem-solving attitude and providing solution attitude. Second, creativity. Now, this is something which narrows down this 100% of students who are tech-savvy to 2 to 3% of overall student community per se. Now, when you are addressing these 3%, the idea here is to work on the creative ability that the student has and the ability of providing solutions, which they have inbound. Now, these students, today's student is very much aware that technology is only going to be a tool to complement its creative ability or problem-solving ability. So once mentored in a right way, probably technology is something which is now a part of life, so it doesn't really fascinate them to change a stream of their education or career. And this is what is my experience with about 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 students whom we interact with. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I would now open the forum for question and answer session. So anybody would like to ask?
Can I start? Can I ask, when the students, when the students come to you, what is the expectation that, a discipline such as architecture and design is going to provide them? Do they have expectations of, of course, parents' expectations will be different from students, but do they have, job expectations? Because both architecture, design, especially, and to some extent planning, are not job-oriented degree programs. They're not placement oriented like engineering or law or management is. So how do you deal with those questions like, am I going to get a job after I graduate?
See, one thing I would say that the student doesn't come to us in a very structured frame of mind. He knows one thing, that I want to do something which my skill set allows me to do. One. And that creative spark which the student has brings him to a design studio like hers or mine. So one thing they are very clear about, that I want to do something which is going to be creative of nature. Now he's not coming with a job expectation, he's coming with a profession expectation. And there is a thin line between this. Every student of 10th or 12th today is aware that I have an opportunity to be on my own, to create my own space into the design stream which I get into, and job can be one of it. So they're very clear about it when they actually start searching their options of education. This is one thing which we have realized. Second, they come with an aspiration of one very simple deliverable from our side. They know that as we started off the discussion with that, the education demand into architecture is going down, right? But if we look at the top 5 architecture colleges, their right of rejection has remained same or has increased. So when they come to us with an expectation that I am going to get into a right college, into a college where where I am going to build my career further as a professional. So, I mean, you know what I'm trying to come to. Education demand has not gone down. It's only more number of players not delivering what is required has increased. So there is a huge gap between a right of rejection of 5 institutions at the top and 95 who are crawling behind. And they come to us with an expectation that I want to be there and I want to experiment and learn what I'm expected to do as a good profession. Thank you.
Hi. Actually, the question is for the entire panel. There was a rave last year to introduce architecture curriculum, basics of architecture curriculum as well as planning curriculum in schools, versus the existing subject that they already have, which is civic sense. And as Amrita rightly said, that before we prepare themselves as planner or architect, we have to make sure that they are first good citizens. So if the government is planning to introduce these curriculums in the schools, will this be seen as a career choice, or will this be seen as a simple civic sense subject and then neglected? So is this going to influence their choice of taking up planning or architecture as a career mode by introducing such courses in school, or it's just going to be seen as mathematics, biology, English, and then neglected after they graduate 10th standard? So what's your take on that? Should we or should we not?
I think architecture is something, it's not new to us, right? So we are studying about the Harappan culture. We have studied about the different monuments in our history. All of us have studied that. But the fact is that how we are taught about it, what was the pedagogy in the classroom it was just merely a passing a subject, or it has the significance too. So I believe that if that would have done, for example, if we have given a thought to a student, for example, I belong to my native place, Bihar. So there is a Golghar, right, which is developed during the East India Company. It was done, I think it was established in 1786. It was done, it's a granary house basically, and it's done for the storage of grains. And apart from aesthetic significance, it has the functionality behind it. So a student need to make them understood that, okay, what was the technical or social political scenario behind any monument. If that should be taken care of it, student will going to get their interest, develop their interest. So pedagogy in the classroom matters a lot for any subject. Otherwise, it will be just as another subject in a school, if that's not to be changed.
And if we want to look at it from the perspective of government's initiative, we can look at it in two ways. There is a fall of number of students going to each and every architecture college. So there has got to be something done to increase that number. And I personally feel that's not going to increase the number. That's really not going to increase the number. If we look at it the way she says, that if that awareness is been provided at school level at the right, with the right pedagogy in place, then in that case, students who wants to take up architecture as a profession are much more clearer before they take a call of doing it. And probably, I mean, I'm not talking about one college or two colleges, but this would also help architecture colleges to have less number of dropouts during those 5 years. And there are plenty of colleges which faces this problem over a longer period of time. First year 1%, 15%, 20%, second year, third year, and what comes up to the graduation show is probably 30 to 40% of the strength in most of the average colleges. So if this has been taken in a right perspective, this is how it's going to be. I'm sorry if I'm blunt.
No,
Thank you.
Sure, and both of you are absolutely right, but that leads to further more questions as to romancing a particular career versus finding out the pragmatics of the career. So, moment a student graduates in the 12th standard, clears 12th standard, the fundamental question in his or her mind, as well as the family's mind, is what are the job scenarios? What are the job scenarios? What kind of career he or she has further, and whether to channelize the whole skill set in architecture or planning, or move away from architecture and planning and then pursue something else. And that is where we as faculty members and academicians, we face problems in trying to showcase a picture in front of them that architecture holds an significant value. So how do we take this forward? That's another challenge.
There was a great word which you used, romancing, right? And when we romance, probably we do it with the most, in a most convincing way and with the highest conviction. And every teacher at that particular time is instrumental helping a student to cherish the dreams. So probably I mean, every single person is going to romance about something which they are passionate about. So I mean, I don't look at it as a challenge. I probably look at it as an complementing the right or nurturing the student to achieve the objective or the goal which he has romanced for. No, if they are going to be really exposed with the right mentor, right pedagogy, right guidance, and right pathway, probably you're helping a student to achieve the goal. Achieving a goal is going to be a challenge, and that can be in any profession. One. Second thing, I mean, I as an individual or as an educator only understand one thing, that your success is relatively or 110% in relation to the opportunities given to you. You have opportunity, you have this opportunity, your success is this much, and if you have this opportunity, your success is this much. So probably as a teacher in an institution, our role is to probably give them the best of the opportunities. They have opportunities, they broaden their horizons, and then they raise up further. So probably, we are just holding their hands towards achieving the goals and face the challenges. Romancing in any nature, social, economical, or educational, is always going to have challenges. You know it better. I have lost it. Thank you.
So I think, going back to your original question about how should these, will this course help us if we introduce it? So last year we were doing a lot. We are trying to visit these schools, and we all know we are doing that, trying to talk to schools and, talk to the kids in the school. And when we were talking about architecture, there was this blankness that came to us, and we all went through that. It was like they were absolutely unaware of it. It mattered very little to the students, and they were literally saying, "वो mama papa जो बोलेंगे हम वही करेंगे." Literally, that was the kind of response that we were getting. So when he's talking about that 3% that is creatively inclined, I mean, actually that course that we bring in will maybe target the next 2%. It's the 3% we have. It's the next 2% that we need to target through an awareness program that can be inbuilt into the school curriculum. So I don't think it will take away, because I think what we offer is much more than that curriculum can offer. So it's not like they're going to come ready-made architects. They're going to be aware what it takes to be an architect, how to get there.
More questions?
I just wanted,
Yeah,
I'll just, sorry,
Yeah, sure.
I'll just add one point, because this is constantly working in all of our brain. Are we actually doing an unwanted outreach to a audience who are less prepared, or are we not really informing them? If you look at because I have a young son who says he's 7-year-old, and I see him constantly getting influenced by his peers. So for me, I used to get influenced when I was a teenager, and when I see this 7-year-old child getting influenced by his peers, I ask myself this question: okay, is the age got reduced? If it's realistic, if what I see is realistic, then I have a strong argument here that we need to really engage with them when they are young, need to reach out to them, inform them while they are at school, because by the time they are in class 8 or 9, they would probably have more clarity what they want to do in life, what kind of profession. I really like the way he kind of picked up the idea. It's not just a job, it's a profession, it's a pathway that they are looking at. I think we really need to inform them and help them to take the right decisions.
So it goes back to what Parul said, that what's been taught in the school, how it's been taught in the school. That means more than focusing on the school itself, we should focus on the counselor, we should focus on the faculty members or the teachers teaching in the school of how these courses should be taught, and perhaps give them a training in understanding architecture and planning, and see perhaps that will change the whole dynamics in the school and lead to one thing to the other. Thanks.
Anybody? Yeah, there's a question over there.
Thank you. So basically my question is, like, we were discussing about aspirational careers when children are young. Like, do they have enough information about architecture? So my question is that in society in general, in the country, the number of architects is very few. And people generally get influenced by who they see around them. Like, they see a doctor or a lawyer or a computer scientist. So generally parents, they don't appreciate the spatial quality, or the fact that the built space is made by people who are qualified professionals. They just, in India, I believe that awareness is also very low, that connect with the public spaces, connect with buildings, built environment, in general is very less. Like, most people don't go to professional designers to get their houses built. That direct interaction is also very low. That discernment of creativity or quality space. So I think the fact that it's being introduced at school level, be Bachelor of Architecture and Planning elements as a subject, might help enhance that. Secondly is the duration of the course, like 5 years. So I think, like, when I was an architecture student, the few batchmates who dropped out at the first year, they all joined a course like BE in civil engineering, because they felt it's for 4 years, and the wait list at some other college, just came up, and they were like, oh, at least my 1 year will be saved and I'll start earning early.
In contrast, like when we look at other two professions like medicine, of course, that gestation period and the study period is very long, even longer than architecture, like almost 8 to 10 years if you count the gap years and the residencies, and then they become a successful practitioner with a specialization. Compared to that, if we see the premier institutes offering law courses, which are also 5 years courses, they have a markedly higher remuneration when students step out of the institute, and likewise, mostly in architecture, people feel that after B.Arch degree, the job prospects are comparatively lesser, and they may have to go for masters until and unless those 3% people with real passion and creativity want to pursue it as a long-term profession. This is what I feel could be a reason for lack of interest. So, I mean, what is the longer-term solution to this?
I think probably the only architect on the panel who can begin to address this. We really don't have an answer. We've been thinking about it for many years. Actually, the profession does itself some disfavors. As you rightly pointed out, our graduating salaries for the graduating student, the professionals, are extremely low, and the profession struggles with this quite a lot. So that sort of really sets you, and and it's not just India. It's in many, many countries. It's in the UK, it's very, very prevalent. So it's a thing that we all have to, in the profession, while we are in the profession, try and up it. It is not something that can happen from the outside. So I have to agree to pay the due to a person that I'm employing. And I can't expect anybody else to, to give me respect if I'm not giving respect to my own colleague, right? So that is something that we have to really introspect as a profession. And that's the only way ahead, because we look at the world around us and we say, oh, we don't get our due. But we don't give ourselves due either. So I think the discussion is over there.
Can I ask you one question? Can I ask you one question?
Sure.
Can you give me two professions where this problem is not there? Not having very fancy or very lucrative startup salary? Which are those two professions or two education streams?
So right now, like we are focusing on architecture. So there are always professions where there is lower salary, but when we talk about even the top rung institutes, this is a problem in architecture which I think we need to acknowledge. I mean, I myself studied at one of the top 10 institutes in the country, and I mean, based on facts and last placement records, whatever, like people joining even firms out of choice, there was no system of placement as such, but then that itself instills a very low confidence in the people who pursue this degree. And I think it's a fact. It's from feedback from people. Like I completed my degree almost 8 years ago. So, and I have been seeing my juniors down the line, and with, in fact, improvement in employment prospects, they gain more confidence because then they have something to look forward to. And apart from that, I feel like people who are genuinely creative, my understanding is that generally they are not able to market their skills very well, because most of the times they lack not exactly confidence, but the fact that they need to put themselves at the forefront and really, market their skills. In fact, I have worked in a construction company where civil engineers would be working in silos, mechanical engineers would be working in silos. It is the architect who has studied all aspects of a building, right from civil engineering to mechanical, electrical, sanitation, all the papers along with, this is why the course is so long, and people don't appreciate that fact, that they are studying something from history of architecture right down to the technical details, professional practice, working drawings. So what I felt, the people who were the main project coordinators, they had a very wide skill set compared to the individual engineers. So for our understanding of coordination, clash detection, it was very solid compared to somebody who is just a civil engineer, just an electrical engineer working on the same project. So I think we need to highlight the merits of being an architecture plus the cross-functional lateral thinking. That's a skill which comes inherently to architects. And even in the startup world, I mean, just somebody who's from tech but doesn't know marketing, doesn't understand the user's perspective, will not succeed to that degree. So that this is something we really need to build upon the strengths of the profession, the key skills that we are imparting, and use that once we step out of college, and also be able to market our own skills, like compared to anybody else in the AEC industries.
Great, superb. So you raised an issue and solved it also.
So it's
Thank
a
you.
discussion, so I just felt
Great.
like if I can share my perspective. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Aditi. I just wanted to ask, why don't we have job fairs? Because when I did my architecture degree, I had to go with my portfolio and I had to call my seniors and, you know, stand in line, get through. When I did my business degree, from internship, you know, job fairs and all took care of me. So just for students, because I get kids calling up and they're like, can you make a phone call? Jobs in architecture is still very one-on-one, who knows who, and then if you call up a batchmate, they'll be like, what are the software skills? The focus is just entirely for the youngsters to be very proficient in software rather than allow them to learn on the job. So is there something we can do when they graduate, like a job fair, or what do you think? I mean, is that a possibility? Like, a lot of other degrees allow that sort of, you know, interaction between profession and students. Is that something we should do, is what my question is.
Like you, 8 years, 10 years, 15 years, if you join those dots, probably the students who are graduating are going to get benefit out of it. And what they are searching is only an opportunity to showcase their skills.
This is just Sushant. Like, I'm just in touch with my batchmates, my seniors, some of my juniors. It's a small group. It doesn't allow them the kind of opportunities a job fair might give. Is my, you know, thought.
There is some attempt to do that. In fact, I'll let Himanshu probably answer that. There is some discussion that we've been having about a graduate program, which is essentially a program that will look at how to place and what to place and where to place. I give it to
I mean, at least since a year, I'm trying to talk with bigger companies, not just the architectural firms, but bigger companies like Deloitte, EY, HKS, and trying to come out with a system or a program. Just like any other company, if we are looking at, for example, Ramboll, bigger company, has so many offices worldwide. So they have this program called as graduate program, and it's a 10-month, 11-month assured job scenario that they offer. And post 11 months, then the company decides whether to retain that particular candidate or not. But the challenge here is because the community is, or the fraternity is slightly weak, when the architects don't talk to each other. And if they are talking to each other, then there's some kind of dynamics over there, which doesn't allow that kind of networking to take place. So if reaching out to these companies can help the institution to formalize a graduate program wherein the students can take the benefit, and not just bachelor students but master students also. If that takes place and our students, not just SSA but any student graduating from any architecture or planning school gets into that framework, then it's a short job opportunity for them. But how many students they will take, or what kind of internship program and what kind of salary, that we need to discuss, that we need to frame. And if such a scenario works for the architects, then probably architectural fraternity will be even more stronger, and we can have such kind of discussions at a different level altogether.
Can I just add something? What we also have to think about, what is a job? And I think we're living in times where people are not going to stick to one job for life. So, and be sorted. That is one thing, and the other thing is that employability of architects in other professions. I think that we need to push really, really aggressively. We are, we are multi-armed gods, right? So we are immensely employable in museums, in design. I mean, in Europe, we should be getting into politics. We should be getting into, environmental activism, and that we already do. But formally, we have the skill set of, 150 job profiles, which we're not using. So I think, so you guys should also, I think, talk to the parents who ask us this question: is my child going to get a job? I mean, we need to broaden their outlook. That it's not just one job. He's actually eligible for 150 jobs. So I think that would also help broaden the employability.
Any further questions? So I'd like to sum up now. And I'd also like to add one point about these professions like architecture, planning, and many more, not the kids not being aware about these. There are two viewpoints in this. One is the present generation is pretty much aware because of, again, the technology, the internet access being there. They are, as compared to our generation, or maybe even 5 years back, they're more aware about what they want to do, and they do take on that. And second thing is that these professions not being known to the kids to some extent, I think the fault somewhere lies within us as a society, because we don't showcase it to them. I have seen in certain countries, there are fairs held for especially grade 1 and 2, 3 kids, where on an open ground, there is an ambulance, there is all kinds of vehicles and people who are contributing to the community, and they are known as community workers. And builders and contractors and architects also are and planners and mayors. All these people are part of that fair, where students come, kids come, and ask them questions and try to understand what a particular profession is about. And they are free to get on a bike, a police cop's bike, an ambulance vehicle, or even play with the gadgets and instruments which planners, engineers, architects carry. They are all displayed over there. I think these are the ways the students can be made aware about various professions, rather than just through the books in the schools, the classrooms. I think that is a way, but this kind of a change needs to come at the school level again, and at the society level. So with that, I would like to thank Dr. Kaliat, Ms. Purva, Professor Madan, and Dr. Shah. Thank you very much for being there and enriching the discussion. Thanks a lot. And thanks, audience. Thanks a lot.
Thanks to all the panel members for bringing in their expertise and experience and engaging us with such fruitful and constructive words. Moving forward, we also have a few representatives of some of the most renowned architecture and design training academies with us today. I would like to request Mr. Amit Phul, CMO, Ansal University, and Dr. Sanjeev Sharma to please acknowledge them.
Hi everyone, thank you so much. It is a great platform where the faculties, students, as well as trainers are together, and it is a rare occasion. So we thought that we must, acknowledge some of the trainers who are here, and they have done some wonderful job in training the students, specifically in the field of architecture and design. So we'll just do this particular thing. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Phul. First up, I'd like to invite Mr. Rahul Mishra, Academy for Creative Students. I request you to please come on the dais, sir. Next, we have Mr. Sumit from the Design Circle. Can we please have Mr. Maulik Shah from BRDS? Ms. Rekha Kejriwal, AFA. Ms. Shivali, NICS. Mr. Vishal and Ms. Parul, Pahal Academy. Mr. Shailendra, Silica Academy. Mr. Zubair Khan. He's come all the way from Hyderabad. Thank you, Dr. Sharma. Thank you, Mr. Full. Moving forward, I now request Ms. Bhavna Dandona, Professor and Program Head, Undergrad at Sushant School of Art and Architecture, to come on the dais for the thank you note.
Thank you. I would like to thank everyone for joining us on this significant academic milestone of SSA and SSPD. I would especially like to thank our honorable trustees, Chancellor Shri Shankar Agarwal, and our Dean, Dr. Vibhuti Sachdev. Where did she go? All thesis and dissertation directors and guides, all the students for putting up a great show, the Degree Show exhibition team, Neha Malik, Saurav Banerjee, Sagar Gupta, and Sanjay Bharadwaj. A special thank you to Himanshu Sangani with all the program heads. And lastly, SSA alumni for their immense support. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dandona. I now request the audience to move forward for the walkthrough, led by Professor Suruchi Modi, Associate Professor and Program Heads Postgrad, Sushant School of Art and Architecture. Ms. Modi is also an alumna of the 2001 batch. I request you all to please move forward for the walkthrough. The walkthrough will be followed by tea and refreshment. Thank you so much. The website says it wrong, ma'am.